I'm Gisette Herrera, and welcome to my follow-up video on the Central Park 5. In this video, I will discuss exonerations, what exactly the official did wrong when handling the Central Park 5 case, and why it's difficult to punish officers for false/coerced confessions. Buckle in, this is a much longer video. As a recap, the Central Park 5 is a case in which 5 teenage boys were coerced into confessing to the rape and attempted murder of 29-year-old Trisha Miley. They were convicted and each spent between 6 and 13 plus years in prison for charges including attempted murder, rape, and assault. The men maintained their innocence throughout the case, trial, and prison terms, and all of them were exonerated after Matias Reyes, a convicted murderer and serial rapist, confessed to the crime in 2002. In 2014, they were awarded $41 million in settlement, and the New York City denied any wrongdoing. What is an exoneration? In short terms, according to the University of Michigan, an exoneration occurs when a person who has been convicted of a crime is officially cleared after new evidence of innocence becomes available. Since 1989, there have been 3,421 exonerations in the United States, and more than 30,250 years lost. According to a study by the National Registry of Exonerations titled Government Misconduct and Convicting the Innocent, the role of prosecutors, police, and other law enforcement, police officers committed misconduct in 35% of exoneration cases. The most common type of misconduct was concealing exculpatory evidence, among witness tampering, misconduct in interrogation, and fabricating evidence. The primary concern in the case of the Central Park 5 was police misconduct during investigation that may have led to their false confessions. Misconduct in interrogations occurred in 57% of all exonerations with false confessions, or about 7% of all cases. As I stated in my previous video, Salam wrote in the Washington Post that when they were arrested, the police deprived them of food, drink, or sleep for more than 24 hours. The boys were also interrogated without a lawyer or their parents present. These factors are likely why all 5 boys shortly confessed to the rape and attempted murder. New York McKinney's Family Court Act requires that a child may not be questioned unless he or his parents or other persons legally responsible for his care have been advised of the child's right to remain silent and request to have an attorney. In Regil B. Castro, 1983, it was determined that police must also make responsible efforts to notify a parent or other person legally responsible for the child's care and give them an opportunity to be present. A violation of this bars the admission of any statement the child makes. However, if the police have made reasonable efforts to notify the parents or other legally responsible person, their absence at the time of questioning does not automatically bar the admission of any statement the child makes. What's important to note from this is that parental absence at the time of questioning is one factor that courts should consider to determine whether statements are made voluntary. It requires that this be considered when judging the reasonableness of police in questioning and the voluntaries of the confession, statement, or admissions. I know that seems wordy, but basically what it's saying is that because the boys' parents were not present, their statement should not have been admissible in court. Along with that, had their parents been notified, the judge should have considered that their parents were not present when judging the reasonableness of the police questioning and how voluntary their confessions actually were. The fact that the boys' parents were not present during their questionings was very much not considered throughout the trial. Furthermore, confessions gained under duress, threats, or physical force are deemed involuntary and are also not admissible in court. They were only boys. They were starved, dehydrated, and left alone without their parents. They were very likely under duress, which consequently led to their false confessions. They maintained their innocence, pleaded not guilty, and even made claims that their confessions were coerced. Their confessions should have never even made it to court, and at the very least should have been taken with a grain of salt. The burden of proof for proving that a confession was made voluntary without coercion rests with the prosecution. Without the boys' confessions, the case should have fallen apart, as there was no evidence linking any of the 5 boys to the crime, other than being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Additionally, many believe there was a racial or class factor to the boys being targeted. All 5 boys were of racial minority and 4 or 5 of them were from Harlem, a notoriously lower-class neighborhood. The victim was a middle-class white woman. At the time, New York City was known for its increasing violent crime and racial tensions between cops and the African American and Hispanic communities. The media placed great pressure on the police to apprehend the culprit of Miley's rape, which is likely what encouraged the police misconduct in order to quickly close the case and settle the community. In exonerations, African Americans who were convicted of murder were 50% more likely to be innocent than other convicted murderers. This disparity follows most violent crime, including rape and attempted murder. All in all, their confessions were coerced and should not have been enough to convict them, especially under the circumstances the boys confessed and with almost no other evidence. What's most frustrating is that nobody was ever reprimanded for the conviction of the 5 boys, and New York City still denies any wrongdoing. This is not uncommon. It's quite rare to see any part of the system punished for false convictions. Only 17% of false convictions saw some form of discipline imposed on officials who participated in misconduct. Police officers were disciplined in 19% of exonerations with police misconduct, a small amount, yet much larger than the mere 4% of prosecutors disciplined for prosecutorial misconduct and exonerations. So why are these numbers so low? Why is nobody ever punished in cases like these? Why do police and prosecutors often get a walk away with no consequences? The truth is, it's complicated. There is no single answer to why it's difficult to prosecute cases such as these, or why they're almost never pursued in the first place. Some of the many reasons, however, are, for one, power dynamics. Law enforcement officers hold significant power within the criminal justice system. Their testimony and actions can heavily influence legal proceedings, which can make it difficult to hold them accountable, as there might be reluctance to challenge their authority. Number 2, prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutors might be hesitant to pursue charges against police officers due to various reasons, including concerns about damaging relationships with law enforcement or the difficulty in proving misconduct beyond a reasonable doubt. Number 3, biased internal investigations. Law enforcement agencies often conduct internal investigations into misconduct. However, these investigations may face challenges due to biases or lack of transparency within the system. Number 4, public perception. Societal view of law enforcement can impact the willingness to pursue charges against officers. There might be a hesitancy to believe that those entrusted with upholding the law could be guilty of coercing false confessions. Number 5, qualified immunity. This doctrine shields government officials, including law enforcement officers, from being held personally liable for civil damages, as long as their actions don't violate clearly established statutory or constitutional rights. As I said, there are many more, however, those are just some of the reasons why it's difficult to prosecute cases of wrongful convictions. There you have it, a deeper look into the legality of exonerations and coercive confessions. Although it's frustrating that so many years were taken from each of these men and no one ever received punishment, I find solace in the fact that their story is being heard. That's why I wanted to talk about this case so badly. Although it's been retold several times, most recently in the 2019 adaptation When They See Us, I still feel like not enough people know their story. It serves as an important lesson that we should never forget. Although we should trust our legal system, we should not do so blindly, and should always acknowledge that everything, even America, has its flaws. I'm Gisette Herrera. Here are my sources for the video, and thank you for being here.